Hi guys, Squintina here, and today I'm going to go over my White Mage controller setup. I will try to line it up with Scholar, and so I will have the Scholar setup available as reference. With that being said, Scholar and White Mage are not the same thing, so there will be a few changes here and there. I will be going over the detail first. If you would like to skip straight to the final setup, there should be a timestamp in the description for you to click on. Alright, let's do this. So first, I'm going to start with the spells, which are GCDs. They have the global cooldown. This is because, according to my own personal philosophy, GCDs should be on the face buttons. I will have a separate video explaining why. So I'm going to start with the offensive GCDs, which in this expansion, I do want them to be visible very easily on the primary hotbar for the healers, to make it easy to switch between healing and attacking. So, Glare and Dia go over here. If you have other lower spells, it's fine if you use these. They will automatically change back to their lower version. And the reason they go here is because, once again, they are on the action buttons, and this follows the same order as what I have for Scholar. Holy will go on the other side. This creates a distinction between single target attacking and AoE attacking. Misery, we're going to hold off on the little GCDs until a bit later because they're kind of special. So that means next are the healing GCDs. Now I've designated for all of the healers that my single target regen will be right here. So here's Regen. Cure and Cure 2 go on the other side. Raise is technically not a healing spell, but obviously it counts as healing. But it's not something you use, ideally, unless you have a really bad one, too often. So it will not go on the primary hotbar, but it will still go on the GCD section, or a face button. And there it is. It will go on the double. So, back to our primary hotbar. If you saw before that it said set 2, I accidentally was editing the wrong hotbar, but so far what I've been covering, other than Resurrection being on the double, which is my hotbar 3, everything so far should have been on the primary hotbar, which in my case is set number 1. But we still have a few more GCDs. So, as I said before, with Afflatus Misery, lilies are going to be a bit special, so the same is true for Solace and Rapture. We're going to cover them separately. That means we go straight to our AoE heals. We have 3 AoE heals for White Mage that are GCDs. They're spells, you cast them, which is actually very different from the other healers that typically only have 2. One of them is a Regen, and our AoE Regen is going to go on this side. That is its designated slot, so here we got our single target Regen, and here we've got our AoE Regen. The other 2 healing AoEs will go on the extended, so that's when you press both triggers together. This is fine because since they're spells, they have a global cooldown. You don't actually need to see their cooldown. So they can be hidden until you need it. So Cure 3 being the strong heal will go here, and Medica will go over there. Asuna is another technically GCD, but once again it's very specialized use, and it will go in the same place as where we have it for Scholar, right here. Repose technically a GCD, however, its use is even more specialized, being only useful in certain types of content such as solo Palace of the Dead or solo Heaven on High or Eureka if you're doing that solo. It's very good for solo content. So because of that, even though it's a spell with a GCD, it's going to go on the D-pad and not a face button. That still leaves 3 GCDs that have a resource cost, so you're not using them all the time, but you are using them sometimes. Ideally, we do want these to be on the face buttons because the fact that they're instant and they are GCD means that they can be great at starting a weave, which, based on what I've seen discussed about White Mage and how I would play it myself, is kind of the best usage for it. Try to use them not just when you need to heal and when you need to attack, but also when you need to move. It's a great time to be dodging, or when you just need to weave something else, one of these many OGCDs. So how do we make this fit with our current setup? Well, in dungeons, right, you're going to be healing usually one person until you get to a boss, which will be your tank. But in 8-man content, you would be healing a party. So which one gets the priority over who goes in the primary and who doesn't? Well, since we have so many AoE healing abilities right here, I'm going to put Rapture with it. So now you get an extra AoE heal that is a GCD, but you can move freely with it. Solace will accompany Regen on the other side. So now you've got 2 choices when it comes to solo healing and weaving. You can either regen your tank or you can solace your tank. This leaves Misery for the extended. Now our OGCDs. We're going to start with the rule actions because those will be in the exact same spot as Scholar. All of the rule actions must be in the same spot. You should never have to fumble just because you switch from one job to another. So that means Surecast is already chosen to go here. Swiftcast goes here, which makes sense, right? Resurrection. Lucid goes over here. Limit Break is not a rule action, and it's not really a GCD or an OGCD, but we're still going to mention it. It goes right here. In the you probably won't accidentally press it slot. The last rule action is Rescue, which was designated on the primary. And so this is what we have so far. And as you can see, we have a lot of space. Now you might be thinking, once I eventually put all of these, I'm going to have a lot of empty slots. So maybe I should just move things that are in the extended to the primary. That doesn't necessarily make it play better. If you end up putting GCDs on the D-pad, sure, you're not going to have to use extended, but you're not necessarily going to be playing in a very optimal way. So I would prefer to keep it as it is and then instead try to see how can I improve on choices and visibility using these extra slots, something that White Mage, having so few abilities compared to Scholar, will definitely get a lot of. But first let's place them and then we're going to go into that. Fluidora will be the last one. So we've got our ground targeting, which I have a section designated for that. Right here. Same as Sacred Soul, and Astrologian will also have its ground targeting here as well. Thin Air is our mana management, so that will be the equivalent of Etherflow. And something you do want to use if you have it, so it's definitely important and should go on the double right face buttons. Temperance. Temperance is a shield. It's also a healing buff, so it's pretty strong. You probably want to use it, so it would be better to put it on the double than to have it on the left D-pad. Because you gotta remember, on the left trigger, left D-pad, assuming you're using a typical controller setup, that's where your movement stick is, so that's going to be hard to do at the same time. It's not as bad with this, though it's still a bit bad just because you can use your right hand to reach over to the D-pad. But if you can keep it on the double, that's a bit better. Because we're going to have other abilities that have shorter cooldowns on the lower D-pad. So because it has a longer cooldown, and it's a shield, I feel it goes well here. Which if you compare to Scholar would be where Consolation goes. So it's like, okay, here's our instant AoE shield spot. But what about the shorter cooldowns, like Divine Benison, Tetra, Assize? Well, shorter cooldowns I prefer to put on the D-pad on the right side, so that, yeah, it's not the same flexibility as the face buttons, but it's still on the right side, which is not your hand that is using your analog stick when you're trying to move. So Assize will go right here, taking the Indom spot. So this is our AoE heals. So on the primary, you will notice the AoE heals gonna go in a pyramid. So the Assize, the Medica II, and then if you were to look at Scholar, that's why I have Fate Blessing. For White Mage, we are going to have an AoE heal. You might be wondering which. I'll be showing it to you. Tetra and Divine Benison are single target, but so is Benediction. So I had like some thoughts where to put this, because my setup is meant to be the strong heal goes here, the weaker one goes on the other side, but they're all kind of strong, right? Benediction is super strong. Tetra is 700 potency, which is pretty strong. Benison is weaker technically, but it's a shield, which that in itself makes it strong because now you're preventing damage rather than healing damage. So the setup I eventually went with was Benison goes here, because this is kind of the spot of the tank buster section, though you could also say Benediction. It depends on whether a tank is using something like Living Dead or not. Benison is a shield, shields are good, but Benediction is also really, really good. So they're both really good. And then Tetra is more of the, oh crap, a DPS got hit, maybe I should give them a quick heal before the next AoE. We're almost there. So Plenary Indulgence is a heal that is based on doing other heals, so you can kind of think of it as being a potency increase, sort of-ish. So I put it where Fate Illumination was, which means that now we've got two ways to increase. We can either increase using Temperance or Plenary Indulgence. So it's nice that they're in the same section. Presence of Mind, you can view it as either a damage boost or a healing boost or both, because it makes you go fast. And it's something you do want to use when you have it. I mean, you may want to time it properly, but you do want to use it, so it's really, really good no matter whether you're healing or DPSing. And so it should be on the face button. So that leaves Fluid Aura and Sprint, I guess, if you want to see it. But we still have all these button slots, once again. Since they're there, I mean, I could leave them blank. I could leave them exactly as is, just put Fluid Aura somewhere, it doesn't matter where, anywhere. Or I can take advantage of it. And so one of the things you may notice is that if you are, let's say, using multiple Raptures because you're on the Expanded now, you cannot see your single target heals. Well, what if you are having something that's like a crazy healing section and one person did not get in range, even it's a pretty big range, but one person did not get in range, and so they didn't get the heal, so now you gotta throw them a single target heal. Maybe you don't want to have to switch from your Expanded, or maybe you were already targeting them, so you don't have to switch. Well, we can still see their cooldowns because we can take advantage that we have these 3 slots here. But we've got 4, and we've got a slot here. So between these and this one, we can make it so that our OGCDs that are in the primary bar can still be seen, even if you are using your Expanded. And that's something I will do a lot of in jobs that have less buttons, is increase visibility, so that you don't have to make that extra hotbar using an actual keyboard hotbar. So we're going to place these back. Asylum. Tetra. So OGCDs are on the primary, not rescue. I mean, it's got a big cooldown, it's very situational. We'll just ignore rescue. Divine Benison. And Benediction. We are going to try to keep the same location for muscle memory purposes. Benediction, Divine Benison, Tetra. Did I just say Divine Venison instead of Benison? I think I did. Venison. Okay. Assize will go here. So now you have the choice. Let's say you are using Dia. You can either go up for Assize or go here for Assize. You could forever and ever ignore this particular size and only use the one up top. It's entirely up to you. And then Fluid Aura. You might be thinking I'll put it here. I'm gonna put it here. And for visibility, since White Mage has so few buttons compared to Scholar, we're going to put Sprint here. So on this particular job, you actually will be able to see your sprint cooldown. We still got 2. And if you want, you could put Afflatus Misery and Afflatus Rapture, so that if you are a person who's also playing Scholar, they would match with Energy Drain and Flayed Blessing as far as what they do. You know, one of them being damage, the other one being AoE heal. But chances are you're probably not going to use these, so it's entirely up to you. You could put something else in there instead. This is my White Mage setup, and of course the 3 buttons at the top are reserved for potions. Potions. The last part is going to be our macro section. Of course, if you have like a res macro, feel free to switch, put this here. If you have a ground targeting macro for Asylum, put it there. Entirely up to you. The section I am referring to is the clicks. So on my left click, I've got macro 98. On my right click, I've got macro 99. This is individual, but it is not based on job or role. It is for the entire character. For 99, of course, I have Sprint. And for macro 98, I have what I call the Healer Main Target macro. What this would do is that if you aren't targeting anything, the second line focus target would actually end up targeting that boss. The first line is, let's say you are targeting someone else, you press it, it goes back to your focus target. Otherwise, it goes to target, which means that if you are targeting something, it will now go to whatever it's targeting. Ideally, that means if you are attacking a boss and you press that, it will go to the person who is holding enmity on that boss, which will be your highest aggro holder, which would be ideally your main tank. And therefore this can be an easy way to target somebody to then use a Benediction or a Benison, whatever. This is not an action macro. It only has targeting commands. As such, it does not suffer from skill queuing issues and can be considered optimal. The time lost is your ability to click very quickly. This is not a macro I would recommend for tanks, which is why it's called Healer Main Target. It would be fine, I suppose, for a DPS, maybe, I guess. But definitely for tanks, I'm going to have a different macro that I'm going to recommend. So if you are a tank main, don't use this and just suffer and use your D-pad. It's not that bad. You'll get used to it. So this is the part where I do the summary version. As a reminder, what I use is a primary hotbar, Expanded, which is on my set 2, which is left and right trigger together. I can fix that. Double. And that's it. I don't ever use more than 3 hotbars for battle content. So, on our primary, we've got Glare, Dia, Regen, Afflatus Solace, Assize, Divine Benison, Benediction, and Tetra. On the other side, we've got Holy, Cure 2, Medica II, Cure, Afflatus Rapture, Afflatus Misery, both of those are optional, Fluid Aura, and Rescue. On the Expanded, we've got Medica, Cure 3, Afflatus Rapture, Afflatus Misery, this is where I would recommend actually having them, Repose, Divine Benison, Benediction, and Tetra, again, for visibility when you are using Expanded. They are optional. On the double, we've got Thin Air, Presence of Mind, Lucid Dreaming, Assize, Asylum, Temperance, Surecast, and Plenary Indulgence. On the other side, Raise, Swiftcast, Asuna, Limit Break, and yes, Sprint for cooldown visibility, also optional. And 3 spots for potions. Alright, well that's it for this overview of my White Mage controller setup. Let me know if you have any questions, comments. Please like the video if you liked it. If you didn't, just let me know why, and I will work on that, I promise. The next video will most likely be Astrologian, because I would like to get all the healers done together because of the fact that we try to have a similar setup, so you can think of it like a series. And I will see you all later. Bye!